are going to come up all the time. That's going to be your most frequently used. The second is the HTTP event collector, okay? So the others are there, like, I love it and I hate it with Splunk documentation because you can do so much, right? But a lot of these things are sometimes kind of edge cases, and so you want that functionality there when you need it. But getting started, like, you know, there's some key things that are going to meet your needs, like 90–95% of the time. So, and that's where this falls into play. So focusing on files and directories and HTTP event collector, that's going to help you get almost all of your data in. If you can't meet your needs with one of those, then you can start taking a look at some of the other options that are provided for those edge cases. So files and directories, let's see if I still have my paste in here. So I have a directory out on my machine. I did, okay. So I have a directory out on my machine, it's just a log directory. So that could be a place where I'm actually dumping lots of log files that I want to monitor that directory. So I don't want to upload a single file, and I don't want to upload a single file and constantly monitor that file. We didn't talk about that, but with the manual option of uploading a file, I could choose to constantly monitor it so that if a new event was written to the file, it doesn't re-ingest the whole file, it actually keeps track of where it left off and will pull new events written to the same file. So with the individual file upload, it's once or monitor so that if something's added to it. So this now is monitoring a directory for a lot of different files that can be put in there. So you might have multiple servers that are all hosts that are pushing out to a single location. So, and again, I can say continuously monitor or index once. We also have some whitelist, blacklist options, right? So maybe there's a subdirectory that you don't want, maybe you only want to go back a certain distance in time, or filter based on the file name. You've got two different kinds of file names in there, and they're come in pairs, and you only want the ones that end in whatever that is, okay? So lots of different options available for you there. So I'm going to say next. So you'll notice it's going to say the data previewer will be skipped. Like, we're smart, but we're not that smart. We can't use the data previewer if we don't even know what's going to go in there. That's going to be kind of hard, right? So you're not going to have the data previewer option available for this method. So I'm going to say browse. Oh, actually, no, I'm not going to say browse. I don't need to say browse because I already pasted in my directory. I'm going to say next. Now, this part is important because since we've done it a few times, you might think we just want to skip right past this. We don't want to skip right past this because since anything could be in the directory, we want to tell it what we're expecting if we want that source type, right? Otherwise, it's going to do what? It's going to do a default and make a best guess, and you're not going to get all your fields extracted, okay? So instead, we're going to say select on the source type, and we're going to go check, and we're going to pick that pan log. I'm going to say review, submit, start searching. Does anybody remember the number of the log file that I pulled in? Okay, so I'm going to do this, and we have nothing. So we have no data. So we have no data because that directory is actually empty at the moment. So this is that directory. There's nothing here. So let's watch what happens now. I'm just going to take, did we do 3 yet? Maybe 4? I'm going to grab 4 just to be sure here. So I'm going to take 4, and I'm just going to drop it in that logs directory. So there, we had some new data that showed up, and now I'm going to hit it again. Okay, now I'm tricking myself. Hold on. Anybody catching my error? What did I do? Let's see. How about let me try 3? I have done this a million times. I'm not sure why that's not working. Oh, maybe because it didn't, I think I messed up the name as I moved it and I didn't pull it in as a text file. Yeah. Okay, there we go. So, sorry about that. You can't fumble the name on, not that it necessarily matter, but anyway, so the hazards of doing it with the UI instead of just copying with the command line. Okay, so there's our file that it's automatically picked up, that it's ingested, that I dropped into that particular directory. And because we got the correct source type, voila, we have all of our correct fields. So you can always extract more fields. You can always do it on your own. but please, please, please start with the apps and the technology add-ons. They're fantastic. It's using best practices. They're gonna have all of the fields and things that you're looking for, and really make a significant difference in the time to value. So the other thing I just wanted to show is a couple things, and this is why I had this open here, is if I come back to this directory. So one of the things that's cool as well is, let's say, I'm just gonna change this name to .back, okay? So one of the things that happens with logs when you start getting into these high volumes is they're gonna start rolling, right? And it had a name and now it's like .back, or 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. So if I go back over into Splunk, you would think that I would have another log file that's .back, but I won't. So the reason for this is because Splunk has been designed to be very, very efficient. So we're actually reading into each log file, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, guys in the front row, I believe the default is 256 characters, but essentially we're reading the first few lines in the file to determine if it's a unique file that we have read before, independent of the log file name. So that means your log can roll, the name can change, and Splunk's not gonna think it's a new file and pull it in again. It's gonna go, I've seen that before, I've seen that before. Now, that's a parameter just like any other. So if for some reason you needed Splunk to check the entire contents of a file, that's not very efficient, but you can absolutely change that and say, I want you to look and see if there's anything at all new in this file. In that case, then go ahead and ingest it. But that way your log file names can change and they can roll all day long, and Splunk's not gonna think that's a new source and try to ingest it. But I can take any other logs as well, and so if I take another one here, pan5, and I drop this in the same directory, I should now have another one show up here. And there we go. So that's how that's gonna scale out. So you can have as many log sources, and you can whitelist and blacklist those. What Splunk is doing in this configuration process, and the last thing that I wanted to show you in this demo, is what that configuration actually looks like, because it's pretty straightforward. So it's really strong and really powerful, but the actual configuration is really simple. So I'm actually I'm in that log directory. Let me come back up. Okay, this isn't where it put it, but that's a whole other conversation of where the actual inputs file goes. But I did this earlier today, and this is exactly what it's super simple, it's super straightforward. That inputs file that got created looks exactly like this, and it's in the search app. Or you could choose, when we chose the context on where we wanted to put it, we could choose where to put it. But it basically is a monitor statement, and it identified the source type. Everything else is occurring downstream with the TA. So it's pretty amazing. So then when we have something like this is, it becomes very easy to push configurations out and really scale this across your organization, because it's really, really straightforward when you start looking at what it's doing underneath the covers. Okay, questions before I transition back into some best practices? It's a good stopping point there. What? No question. Okay, we do. Okay, let's start back here again.
Is there an easy way, because we're kind of new to Splunk, to kind of gauge the data, like how much, because everything's based on how much
volume. You want to know how to gauge volume? I will be covering that within the best practices on some various options. Great question. I'm going to take from the way back and work my way forward here. I'm sorry, again?
So in the demo, I think you use the text file?
Yes.
Can you pull in a zip file?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, zip or tar. Tar.
What is zip file? Does that show the preview?
No, I do not believe you can use the previewer, the data previewer for that. No. Okay, I'm working. There were some folks over here that were first, so I'm going to come up here.
When you ingest data,
Do you guys want me, as a question is asked, do you want me to repeat the question so you can hear the question in the back first? Sorry, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, your question?
so when you are indexing data,
Yes.
are you going to cover the different buckets that Splunk uses, like hot, warm, or frozen?
I can talk, that wasn't an intention of this session, but I can certainly, if we have time, talk to you a little bit about that. I think it's a really important concept for understanding just what data Splunk is doing with as data roles. I think you had a question up here as well, or who, right here.
See, I have loaded the data, but I think it's a wrong data I loaded. How do I remove it?
How do you remove it? There is a command called, there's two things. I'll tell you what. So one, on the search bar, there's a delete command, pipe delete. You can do that. So I would Google search for removing data in Splunk, and that will, now just be aware, that's not going to free up the underlying disk space. So hopefully it was a small file, because it is still going to consume the storage, but Splunk loses its ability to ever find that data again. So for all intents and purposes, from Splunk's perspective, it doesn't exist. Okay? So just use the delete command directly in the search bar. Next question?
So for this you showed that there was existing PA out there. What if it's like a completely custom, how do you, is there from the UI you train it saying like, okay, extract this?
Yes, I'll show you that. Okay, and what I'm going to do, let me get a couple things really fast, because I think we'll have time for all of those. Extract fields, bucket.